This past Sunday, we talked about marriage, and we talked about a couple named Priscilla and Aquila. And this isn't really some people that we talk about a lot, but they have an incredible story, and they knew that their marriage had a mission, and it was to serve God. See, Paul was preaching in Rome. He was preaching that Jesus was the Messiah. And Priscilla and Aquila believed this wholeheartedly. But the officials in Rome didn't really like this, so they kicked every single Jew that believed that Jesus was the Messiah out of the city, and Priscilla and Aquila go to Corinth. A couple weeks later, Paul comes up to Priscilla and Aquila's house and knocks on their door, and they could have easily said, "Hey, we don't want you around. You got us kicked out of our old city. We're not going to associate with you because you could get us in trouble," or whatever. And they had gone to Corinth and they were starting their tent business. That's what they did. That was their career. And they could have said, "No, we're not going to be associating with you because if you get us in trouble in Corinth and we have to leave, we got to restart this whole process over again." And that's not what they did. When they saw Paul at their front door, they invited him in. And I love that they didn't say, "Oh, the guest room is too dirty. We got too much stuff piled up. We need to fix that before you can come in." They welcomed Paul into their home. And the thing about Priscilla and Aquila is that they didn't go out and preach the way that Paul did. They didn't go out and do the same things that Paul did. All Priscilla and Aquila did was knew that their marriage had a mission, and they had to find a way to use the resources they had in order to further the mission of God. So they invited Paul into their home, and they said, "Hey, we will be a resource to you. Anything that we have, we're going to give to you so that you can go out and share this good news that Jesus is the Messiah." So they gave him shelter, they gave him clothes, they supported him financially. And that's why Paul was able to go and do what he did. And without Priscilla and Aquila, Paul probably would have been very productive and been able to do a lot of incredible things. But because of them, he was able to do the things that he did. And Paul wrote over half of the New Testament and preached to tons of people. And it's an incredible story to see that Priscilla and Aquila, who could have said, "No, we're going to be by ourselves, we're going to do this marriage thing on our own," they decided, "You know what, we're going to do whatever we can. We're going to do whatever we can to open our home, to be on mission, and to serve God." I love that back 2,000 years ago, marriage is really what brought people to know who Christ was, what Jesus was actually doing, and what God wanted us to know, because back then women were not treated fairly. People had multiple wives and multiple husbands, and men had all the power. But when God introduced marriage, Christian marriage, into the world where there's one female and one male, when he introduced that principle into the world, that idea of marriage, people started to take notice. Because people were actually seeing unconditional love. They were seeing people stay committed to one another, not going out and being with a couple different spouses. And I love this because when people started to see marriage, they started to convert to Christianity. Because they saw unconditional love, they saw commitment, they saw sacrifice, they saw service. I love that about marriage. I love that this picture of marriage is what we're supposed to see as Christ's love for the church. And that's why he's given us marriage, is so that people can see the love that he has for his church and the love that he has for his people. So marriage has a purpose and marriage has a mission. And we need to understand that in marriage, we have to be like Priscilla and Aquila, willing to do whatever we can with whatever resources we have in order to show people who God is. And I pray that in all of our marriages, my marriage and your marriage, that when people look at us, they see God. They don't see you and your spouse. They don't see how cute y'all are and the nice car you got and the nice house and the perfect kids. Those things are great, and I hope that that's a part of your life. But ultimately, we need people to see God through our marriage. When they see us, they see God. That's what marriage is supposed to be. It's supposed to be on mission, and it's supposed to serve God together. It's both of you coming together to serve God. So marriage has a purpose. We have to be devoted in our marriage because we have to know that marriage is the picture of God's love for the church.